started on time. So today we're going to talk about, actually, we're going to use our hands and we're going to make some art. As we are going to be doing learning to accept the woman I am. We've got Aparna Apte Gupta, who's an art-based facilitator and a TEDx speaker. She's a very, very good friend of Sipping Thoughts. You've seen her on our show before, and her session was incredibly popular the first time that we did it. So, in this session, we're going to use art to help people express their thoughts and feelings. It is possibly one of the most powerful ways to understand ourselves and be able to move forward. So, Aparna will be sharing a lot of doodling exercises with us. So, please do get a piece of paper, regular A4 size, just get a pencil. You don't need to have crayons or anything, a sketch pen, anything that you want that will allow you to sketch. Aparna has worked her way up in choosing and producing many, many interesting shows for Doordarshan, for Channel V, for Sony, for BBC, for the National Geographic channel. She's also been the creative head of branded content at Zoom Television. She quit TV to pursue her love for painting, working on specific art commissions, and has three art exhibitions. But painting by herself was too lonely. She loves people. So she decided to bring her background in arts and film into coaching, leadership, and development because she realized there's a relationship here. Art and music help to bring the whole brain usage and help in opening up new perspectives. So, like we said, this course is taught at a lot of corporates. It's been used at IIT Delhi. It's been used in multiple places. So we thank Aparna for bringing us this, and we can have this format with us. So I'm going to welcome you, Aparna, and get right into it. So, Aparna, why this format?
A lot of you might be wondering, what's the connection between art and accepting oneself? Well, actually, the connection is pretty deep and pretty strong. Like Sukirti mentioned, that I conduct art-based trainings, and the idea of doing an art-based training is to help people figure their feelings, their thoughts, and actually make affirmations using art. And you'd be surprised how powerful it can be. So if any of you think that you suck at drawing and you're like really terrible at it, and you say that, oh, why should I be doing this? And this is not going to help me. Just relax, because nobody is here to judge your drawing. And it doesn't matter if you draw badly. The idea is to actually, how children actually just draw, right? They draw before they even learn to talk, or, before they learn to forget reading and writing, before they even talk, right? They learn to doodle and draw, right? Scribble on paper. And that's what we are going to try doing. Okay. So, so yes, that's the connection. And I will go deeper into the connection a little later in the session. And if that's okay,
And
Sukirti.
Aparna, now you've been working with a lot of women. So, what is the biggest issue that you feel, or the biggest blockage that women are facing?
I think just managing their personal lives with work. I think that becomes a real challenge. Especially if they have kids, and then that becomes a real challenge. There's so many responsibilities, right? So, but otherwise, I mean, I don't see all the women that I have been working with. They're founders of different nonprofits, etc., and they are so focused on their work, and so what do you call it? There's no lack of commitment to their work or to their personal lives, right? And which is beauty, right? Which is what we should be doing. So, because I think it's once you decide, you can do it. It's as simple as that.
That's awesome. And tell us a little bit about your story, because we always like to hear that. And you've also have a very interesting story. But before I do, and I will turn it over to you guys, everybody will see we've got two cameras. We've got one on Aparna. We've got AAG, which is camera 2, which is where she will be drawing. So please keep watching both the screens. So one, you can see her, and one, you can also see her drawing, so that, we don't have to take the focus away from her at any moment. So please, Aparna, tell us your story and then take it away.
So, Sukirti, thanks. So, I worked in television, like Sukirti mentioned, and thank you for the lovely introduction, Sukirti. And I'm really happy to be here, and I'm so happy to see so many of you here for this talk. So, I was in television for a really long time. I have a degree in painting, then filmmaking, then I was in television, and then I thought that I should have a career change. So I basically moved into painting, back into painting. And I realized that I really want to work with people. I really enjoy it. But the one strength that I had was leading my teams. And they really, really thought that I gave them a free hand to experiment. And that's when I realized that maybe I should be in leadership and development. And that's where I am now. So currently I work with an incubator, an NGO incubator called Unlimited India, and we incubate nonprofits, startup nonprofits. And I currently coach six startup founders. So that's what I'm doing. And I also teach at IIT, time management. So on that
Fantastic.
note, we need to start our session because we run out of
Absolutely,
time.
because I know everybody is worried how are we going to do this all in
So
1 hour. So let's get
that's
started,
all.
Aparna.
Thank you. Thank you, Sukirti. So, welcome again. And, last week when Sukirti and I were talking about this talk, right? I decided to revisit this film I saw 2 years ago on Netflix, and it's called I Feel Pretty. It's some of you may have seen it. Rohit, can I have the presentation, please, if that's okay? So, the movie is about this exercised woman who is convinced that her life will change only if she becomes pretty. Okay. And this girl is struggling with immense insecurity, right? And then one day she wakes up from this really bad fall, and she wakes up believing that she is the most gorgeous and capable woman in the world. And with this newfound confidence, she's totally empowered to live fearlessly. Okay. It's a very sweet story because of the stuff that she does, which she wouldn't have ever done before. And she's totally like, she's out there doing things which, you and I would say that, wow, I wish I could do this, right? And then she one day realizes that her looks and appearance haven't changed, and she's devastated. And she goes back to her, insecure self. So I'm telling you the story just because there's a reason for it. And and then at an event which she was supposed to co-host, she kind of has this aha moment, and she says that, she realizes that she needs to embrace herself for who she is, and just be confident about herself, just the way she is. But this is a movie, and I want to ask you all that, is this really possible in real life? Is anyone here who hasn't thought about it?
Very difficult. I think we have so many insecurities. So I will say definitely very difficult.
So yes, so it is, and some of you might think that, yes, it's easy to, once in a while, you feel confident, sometime now, sometime again, right? But it's not consistent, right? That's what happens generally. It's not consistent confidence. But that is why, we need to learn to accept oneself for that consistent confidence, right? And which comes with immense self-awareness, right? And one does have to make an effort, and which is what we're going to try and figure in this exercise today in today's session. Okay. So again, coming back to the connection between art and accepting oneself, I want to show you some images that were made by some of my participants over the years. And can I? Yes. So this one is made by a final year graduate student at IIT to show the stuff of his dreams. Yes. This is the next one is what the administration head at a reputed company in India created to express his creative self. Then the next one, this one is made by another student at IIT, and I've shown you the really good ones. Okay. So in case you think that, oh my God, these artworks are beautiful, right? They are. But that's why I wanted to show you that these people are not artists, right? They've just gone all out to express themselves. That's what's happened here, right? So in the last few years of using art, I to coach people towards their goals or get past some emotional barriers, I've discovered that each one of us has an extreme urge to express creatively, right? And art is for everyone. An MIT study of 2018 says that cavemen developed art, that language developed from art, right? And that art is at the core of our cognition. So, which is why, coming back to my first point, children draw first before they actually learn language, before they learn to speak. So, which is why you see children expressing with all types of doodles and scribbles. And, those are really powerful. A lot of times, simple drawings are very, very powerful. And that is why I'm really keen that you explore this today, right? So I really urge you all to pick up that pencil, pick up those colors, and participate in this. Draw. It doesn't matter if you draw one Tera Mera tree. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if you don't have color right now. If it's easy to get colors at every stationer. You can do this later. You can add the color later, right? So now, which brings me to my next question for you is that what do you understand by acceptance? What do you understand by acceptance? Anyone?
So I am writing being true to yourself. I'm
Okay.
waiting to hear the other people's answers.
Acceptance. And then, we all know of social acceptance. Is there really a need to
So
kind of,
Shobha is saying embracing the. Akshada is saying trying to be non-judgmental. Lata, acceptance is being yourself. Sween says for me, for being me as I am without validation from others. Shobha says whole of you. Jyoti says the weakness to be acknowledged. Divya says comfortable with who I am. Akansha says taking your weakness at your stride instead of hiding. Bansri says the way we are, it is the way it is. Zainab detached from people's judgment and constant scope to improve with non-judgmental view. Veena says unconditionally accepting oneself. Charu says acceptance means to be peace with yourself.
very nice.
And Radhika says acknowledgement and appreciated. Sween says acceptance is first from ourselves and then from others, if and when
Really nice. Very nice. Very nice. It's just wonderful to have your answers. And if you turn on the television set and watch any show, the Saas Bahu shows or the reality TV shows, not the non-fiction shows about animals, but otherwise, most of them are about acceptance and rejection, right? And the reason is that acceptance in, whether it's in romantic relationships, whether it's in friendships, between colleagues, in your family, right? Or, between siblings or even from strangers is fundamental to us human beings, right? We need it, right? And first of all, I think it'll be safe to say that we cannot have an entire lifetime with everybody being nice to us. That's not a possibility, right? And it's not, that it's not possible that we haven't faced rejection. We won't face rejection at some point or the other, right? But when you feel rejected or excluded, right, the best way to deal with it is to seek out other sources, right? And a lot of us hide our pain, what we feel when we are rejected, right? When we're not accepted, because we feel embarrassed about it. We feel that maybe it's not such a big deal, somebody else won't understand why I feel this way. But this a friend of mine who's a therapist, she tells me that our bodies feel rejection like physical pain, right? And it's the kind of pain that we need to pay attention to, right? It puts our bodies under a lot of stress and we may not even realize it. And the thing is that it's the kind of thing that you need to take seriously, right? So a lot of times it seems like a chicken egg situation where we feel that, if other people, if I am accepted by others, I will be able to embrace myself, right? That's the general way of thinking, and all of us do it. It's not just you or just me, or it's just everybody does that. But actually it's the other way around, right? We have to embrace ourselves first, accept ourselves wholly first, and only then we can exude that confidence which allows people to accept us irrespective, even if we don't fall into the social norm, right? So now this is where we begin drawing. Okay. And some of you may recall the tree that we made in my session 2 years ago, right? We're going to make another tree this time. And this time it's going to be the tree of embracing oneself, right? So what I want you to do through this talk, as we go through this talk, is to use that sheet of paper, your sketch pens or crayons or pencils, pens, and I want you to draw a tree trunk first. Just two parallel lines make a trunk, right? It's really simple, right? And below that trunk, I'll give you 2 minutes to just make those two lines. And below those two lines, I want you to make like rat tail squigglies to make the roots, right? So look at this thing. So I'll just show you another way. You can just right, if I was to add another, root to this, you just think about a rat tail like that, like that. You see that? It's just a rat tail. And then you can fill it, right? If you have color, that's great. If you don't, that's also fine. You can still do, crosshatch. If you've got a pen, I'll use a bit of pen here, right? You can also do a crosshatch and fill it, right? So that's a rat tail squiggly. Okay. Now the roots are what are going to denote your values. Anyone wants to tell me what values means really? We talk about values and ethics so easily, but what are values? Anyone? Divya, I read your message. Many times physical pain is a manifestation of mental pain. Very true. Our beliefs, our belief system, says Vinu. Yes. So Kirti says our beliefs. Values are from environment, our conditioning. Okay. It's what we stand for. All right. Give me an example, anyone. Values
Values
lead to
lead to core
purpose.
beliefs.
Yes.
So our values could be that I am always going to be honest, or that I believe in fairness. I don't know how you judge that, but maybe I would love to hear other people also sharing what do they feel. So Sunita says honesty. Shobha says steering our behavior. Sanchita says belief system.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So these are values like honesty, like ambition, family orientedness, or say, freedom, self-control, discipline. These are all things, that are actually our values, right? These are values that actually, our entire life, the way, when you're confused about where your life is going, right? Whether, your work and your personal life are going according to the way you would like it to go, it's great to actually just go back to your values, your core values. We can have 10 values, but what are your top four? I want each of you to think about your top four values. They're really like the measures that you use to tell if your life is going in the right direction. So for me, for example, I'll tell you. So for me, it is family, very important to me, extremely important, right? I will do everything to, I do not, I'm generally asocial by nature, but, I will give up a chance to go out to make sure that I'm with my son, just as an example, right? So family is important to me. Perseverance is important to me, right? So I'm going to put that in these roots, right? Then there's freedom. That's very important to me, right? And honesty, right? These are my, I would say these, I was really thinking about it, that what are my top four values? And these are my top four values, right? You can add more, you can make it five. But the thing is that everything that you do, right? We are on this earth for a really undetermined period of time, right? And it's really not in our hands. And COVID has brought that into greater focus, and to make the best use, and to make sure that this time is used in the best way possible, right? Wouldn't it be nice to feel good about ourselves? And that is why figuring your values is so important, because if you are like, as a coach, I can tell you, if you are basing your happiness based on somebody else's values, then you're not going to be happy, right? You're going to continue craving for acceptance in an area which is not even a priority for you, right? I mean, if somebody says, oh, ambition is correct, but I may not be ambitious. And if I keep trying to pursue that, I may never be happy, right? So, which is why it is very, very important to understand what we value, right? What my mother values may be very different from what I value, right? So and it doesn't mean that it's just passed down, right, in the family, right? It's person to person, right? So your values make you who you are, right?
So, any tips? Because a lot of us are confused and we tend to put down a lot of the generic values, honesty, compassion, or work or time. Any way to really figure out at the core? Because I think sometimes when we are thrown these questions, we haven't really delved into it. And we like the ones that we idealize, that we
Sure.
want to
Very good
be.
point. That's a very good point, Sukriti. Really. But I think for me also, truthfully speaking, it's only in the last 6 years, that I have really thought about these so deeply, right? I've gone through a complete, I've gone through a major shift in my life in the last 6 years. And in that, really, I started questioning what was really, really important to me. And once you go through something which has kind of put you in a corner, I would say, a difficult time, that's when, you don't have time for, how do you put it? You don't have time to do just about everything, right? And then you really start questioning it. And it's a great way to try and figure, like, any difficult period of your life, do take out time to think about what your values really are. Or if you go back to those difficult times, and what did you keep going back to? For me, I keep going back to, for me, the one thing that keeps me really happy is to have freedom to take my own decisions. And this has been a constant, right? If I keep thinking about it, it's been a constant in my life, right? So that is definitely, freedom is one of my values, right? For me, saying honesty, it sounds really cool, but it's something that I literally, sometimes I've been told that don't be so blunt, but I think that, but that's the way to be, I'm being honest, right? So I think that's something that's been a part of me constantly, right? So it is a value that I live by, right? So this is, I guess that's the real way to, keep looking back at the times when, at different points of time in your life, when, some things have just been consistent. And
So,
then,
yeah, I'm just going to read some of the comments that are coming in. Sunita says commitment. Nooper says loyalty and family. Sween says courage, family, real, my professional ethics. Bansri says compassion, creativity, connections, and coexistence. Prathama says self respect, dignity, good health, and compassion. And Sween says, thanks, Sukirti, ma'am. Thank you, Sween. But no, I think it is a difficult question. So I think for
yes,
those that are not getting it right away, I think don't get perplexed, because even
don't.
me, I'm thinking about it and I'm saying, okay, you know what? This is, I think what I've written down is what I would idealize. This is the
Yes,
idealized version of
yes.
security.
Very, very good point. Very good point. Actually, we should actually do a session on values, at some point. I'm serious. Figuring
We
out
will,
your
and I'm going to
values.
take you up, Aparna. You've just
Yes.
volunteered.
So no, I'm very, very serious. I mean, I think it'll be a fantastic, thing to explore. Figuring your values, right?
We will.
Okay,
Absolutely. So
done.
done.
Later soon. Okay, great. So so once we've got these values in place, okay, now I want you to write your strengths along the length of that tree trunk, right? So these are going to be your strengths. Now, what do strengths look like, right? And a lot of you, I can almost hear it, people saying that, I'm like, I don't know, etc. But the idea of putting down your strengths is actually to balance out the parts of yourself that you don't value quite as much, right? And secondly, drawing it out and writing it down, right, really makes you look at yourself differently, right? Because sometimes it's like saying, sometimes just articulation itself brings about this entire thing, like, oh, I didn't know. Oh, it's great to put this down and to read it every time you're feeling low. You should read it, right? So it could be like, I'm a really strong mother, I'm very creative with finances, I'm a talented cook. It could be, I'm great at motivating my teenagers and I'm their confidant, which is like, wow, right? I mean, that's 100% strength, right? Especially in today's day and age. Or I'm great at managing time and a tight schedule. All these are strengths, right? So I want you to take out 2 minutes to write down your strengths. Strong
Sunita
sense of
says,
intuition. Yes, very nice,
Sunita
Srini.
also says curiosity to learn like a child, thinking outside of the box. Very nice.
It is. These are strengths. Believe me, these are. And these are, while somebody else, and really it depends on who seems to see it as a strength and who doesn't. But it, that where you're able to apply it. And you'll be surprised, if sometime you're confused about whether something is a strength or not, ask around about how people manage their lives and what they struggle with. And you'll get a really good sense, right? I mean, for somebody who takes something for granted and says, oh, I'm able to do this, like, somebody who is a really good cook might say, this is normal. I'm supposed to do this every day. But no, somebody else who struggles with cooking will tell you that, wow, you're able to make great meals so easily, right? Without giving it too much effort, right? So that is a strength, right? So different things can be seen as strength, right?
So we're
Where's the
getting some
last?
amazing answers in. Yeah, Ruhi is saying being open to any situation, Akansha, transparent and honest. We know backbone of my any team, open to learn. Sunita, follow your passion, 100% vigor. Harpreet says creativity, going with the flow. Divya says urge to learn from any good source, ability to keep the child alive in me. I love it.
Very
Radhika,
nice.
listening, open to learning, just being there for one another. And Charu, sometimes you look submissive, but that can also be a strength at times.
Yes. Oh, wonderful, Charu. That is. It is. Because, people, yeah, it's a great way to this thing, to get your way a lot of times. It's fantastic. It's how you view something. It's how we value some things as, oh, that person is such a risk taker. We always value things which seem very cool, but we don't value things which may not always be, this entire thing of I'm such an extrovert, right? People love saying that, but being an introvert is also a strength because introverts listen. You'd be surprised how much introverts listen, and they are able to really assess what's going on really, most of the times, because they are very, very observant very often, right? Not because they're not always out there, right, speaking to everyone, etc., right? So everything has we value sometimes, in the social world we value things which are seemingly, the outgoing and the cool things, right? Very nice, Charu. Really like this thing. Okay, so when's the last time you all put down your strengths? Curious to know. Does it feel nice to put them down? To just, to just say, hey, this is me, right? So, okay. Now to embrace ourselves, I want you to make branches, like, about 5 branches on that tree, right? So you see, I've got about 4 branches here, and I want you to make these. So, and for every branch, you can add leaves, flowers, or fruits, whatever you want to, right? Um, I will tell you what we are going to do with these branches, right? So now on one branch, I want you to actually write down all your accomplishments, right? Now, this is different from your strengths. These are your achievements, right? And many of you might say that, oh, I achieved only when I was in school. I was a top grader, but now with a husband and kids and with marriage, where is the time now? But I beg to differ. And your accomplishments is not just stuff that you've done at work or in school or in college. I want you to write down even your personal achievements or troublesome times that you have overcome. Okay. Concrete examples. I'll give you an example. Okay. For me, my husband's sudden death was really hard on the family. But I'm proud that I have been able to come out of it and even maintain a good relationship with my in laws, who are today part of this talk. And they and I both have made a lot of efforts towards this. And this is an accomplishment, whether my in-laws agree with that or not, but it is, because this is not an easy thing to have done over the last 6 years. For others, the examples could be 2020 and 2021 was really tough, and our family had no earnings, but I managed to run the house on a bare minimum. Or it was really I had to manage my job, online school for my little one, and the chores at home, which I may not have been perfect at. I managed multiple things I could have never imagined, that I would have been able to manage. So these are all examples of accomplishments, personal accomplishments, whether it's in relationships, maintaining relationships, doing things at home, doing things otherwise. You know, we do things that, which some the things that we have done, which we may not have done otherwise, right? And come out strong on the other side are definitely your strength, right? So please put them down on one of those branches. Created mental resilience with time, fought my physical illnesses bravely, looked after all the toxic relationships, worked hard to fulfill our dream together, proved daughters are no less than sons. Very nice, Sween. Very, very nice. Okay, so I'm going to write down accomplishments on one of the branches. Can you see this?
Yes.
So this is on one of the branches. Okay, now this is like, it's really long for me to write what I did, but yes, what I wanted to say. But so thank you, Rita. Thank you so much. Make peace with your past. Yes. So should I give you 2 minutes to do that?
And please do share with us, people, if you want to share
Actually,
your
I would love to see
accomplishments.
some of the stuff that people have done. That would,
I don't know if you can see mine yet.
Oh, Sukirti, that's really nice. That's good. Can I see some other people's?
Yes, please. Please do turn on your
That would be
cameras if
so
you would
nice.
like to share. Raise your hand. We
That
would
would
love
be
to
really, really great.
spotlight. There we go.
No, Shobha, each branch is not a different accomplishment. We'll do other things for other branches. There will be different branches. Yes. So leaves can be for different accomplishments, right? You can make leaves over here, right? You can do leaves. You can do different, right? You can make flowers for each accomplishment. You can, right? You can do,
Should you write them down?
okay.
Like I wrote
I
down
think
the
it's important to
accomplishment.
write them down. See, you know what? So I haven't written them down. It will be too difficult for me to. Where's my other pen? I'll just use another pen. You can absolutely write them down. Just 1 second. You can write, for example, if I want to, this thing came out strong post my husband's passing away, right? Right. This is an accomplishment for me, right? I didn't stay, you know, in the same for a long time. I did, but I've come out of it, right? So this is so similarly, I want you to write down things that you have accomplished. That's the best way to do it, right? And if you don't want to write it down right now, you can always take out time and write it down later. Okay. All right.
And Jyoti is sharing. She says, accepting mental illness in my kids and doing whatever I could. Yes.
That's so amazing, Jyoti. That itself is such a big accomplishment. Because we tend to we have the sense of what our kids will be like, and nothing can ever happen to them, etc. It's a very, very brave thing to do. So yes. So, and on the next branch now. Now this one is my biggest struggle towards. It's been my biggest struggle towards self-acceptance in the last 6 years. After my newly acquired social status of being a widow 6 years ago, for the first time, I truly lost my confidence. And additionally, people made it worse by passing all types of comments about how I should be leading my life. And those comments still come along. And yes, my mother sitting in on this talk also, she always says, oh, don't let it trouble you. But it does. So what does one do? So when other people make comments about us, we often internalize these comments and work them into our opinions about ourselves. So I'll give you an example. Recently, a really flamboyant and friendly acquaintance decided to play critic to me and help me, right? She told me that my life must be super mechanical because of, I do everything according to a schedule. And for months, it kept troubling me. Why? She meant well. I'm 100% sure she meant well. Okay. But somewhere I sensed a condescending monster in her speech, right? And that bothered me immensely. Okay. She made it seem like I am like this really boring person with a really boring life. And, so I went all out to go back to my 25-year-old self. Remember, I'm in my mid 40s. I'm an only parent of a 6-year-old and an 8-month-old puppy now. Additionally, I'm quite asocial by nature. So, so I really did enjoy myself, but for 2 days, and then I was exhausted at the end of day two after this sordid experiment, of socializing like every day. Okay, but I went back again to to my 25-year-old self for the next 10 days, and believe me, I was so tired at the end of it, and just getting back to my work, getting back my work back in order, my life back in order and I was miserable. And the worst was that I continued worrying about what she had said. And, it took me another 2 months to chew on this and to understand that not only are her life and my life hugely different. I mean, that's a given, right? Even though we stay close to each other, it's hugely different. But we also want different things from our lives, right? Our values are different, our goals are different, right? What I want is financial and mental independence, and she doesn't, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with what both of us wants, right? It's just that we want different things, and therefore then naturally our lives and our days and the way we manage our lives is going to be hugely different. So there's no comparison, right? Now, if somebody is not able to understand that about you, then they definitely don't need to make it to your best friends list, best friends forever list, right? Because if they can't see that about you, then it's a bit pointless to expect that they will be there there for you constantly, right? Coming back to you and the tree, right? I think we should make a branch named Judgment Branch, right? For all the untrue judgments passed about you over the years, right? And I'm sure there are a lot of them, right? A lot of them for each one of us, which has really stung, okay? And you wouldn't have known what to do with it, right? So let's share, okay? So we'll make one branch, the judgment branch, okay? And we are going to share what judgments were passed about us. I've realized sharing, okay? I shared this one with Sukirti this morning, and right after I shared it, I started laughing about it. Okay, so it helps, right? So I'll tell you, I'll share it with you also. So when I was 30, I was told that I'm a great girl. You're a great girl, but you're totally unmarriageable. And now the minute I'm saying it, it's actually
We've
really
all been
funny.
told that.
So
You're too educated. Nobody's going to marry you.
and women are definitely at the receiving end of these judgments. So on that note, I'm urging you all to share the ones that you have come across. It would be great.
And I love what Sanjita has written, that the judgment branch will be endless. How long can we make this? We might need to add more sheets.
So, well, so you might want to add flowers for all the people who judged you. Give them some respect. They had an opinion about you. That's fine. So, yes, but so yes, so there you go. Sween has already shared. Modern educated and big city girl can't manage traditional household. An ambitious girl is not of good character, and giving birth to two girls is a curse. Okay, Radhika says, being a caring teacher and trainer to many, faced my cancer diagnosis, been a fairly good single mom by choice, a loving pet parent. Judgments were all related to these. So of course you got no culinary skills. You have abnormal feet and palms. You walk weird and too fast. If you think about it, does it become funnier as you share? Like, I'm
Yes,
just
I love what Kirti said. They took their precious time to think about us.
yes, they took that precious time to think about you, right? So, Sunita, that's amazing that you've never been bothered about others' judgments. That's fantastic. You're blessed. I really mean it, right? So, but for a lot of people, including me, in the last 6 years, oh my God, how much I've struggled with it, right? But I also realized that reading all these judgments, don't you feel like laughing and crying at the same time? It's like you get so mad, and at the same time it is comical when you really think about it, that how could they say something like this, right? So that is why I think it's very important to have a judgment branch, right, on that
And
tree.
I love what Jyoti says, talks and laugh like men, loud and noisy. I'm with you, Jyoti. I hear that also all the time. Sunita says, never bothered
Yes.
about others' judgment. That's awesome. Sween says, being a hard taskmaster and perfectionist is a big invitation to judgments. And Divya says, tomboyish and so strong that I can take anything. So any of my loss is okay for them.
Very nice. Very nice. Very, very nice. So, yes, I guess you can have like 10 branches for judgments. Yes. And you can look at them and you can, I think it's a great way to kind of get past them, right? So, more importantly, if you are able to understand the root of the judgments passed on you, you can actually start to forgive those judgmental people. For instance, just this acquaintance, the more and more I thought about it. And my mother thinks that I overthink these things, but for me, I'm just trying to understand why something is happening, right? And I realized that this acquaintance was leading a rather prohibitive life, dictated by her husband, and she was projecting her insecurities onto me. And understanding that did help me feel a bit better, right?
And one thing you can do is also cross out all of those judgments that you don't agree with. That's what
Yes.
I'm doing. I'm writing them and crossing them out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this was now the judgments by other people. But what about that little voice in your head that continuously makes you judge yourself? Forget about other people judging you. First, you have to accept yourself and stop judging yourself. Again, coming back to my example, I had rage issues when my husband passed away, and I was bitter. But when that subsided, a new thing began, right? I started feeling really bad about my anger. So much that I wouldn't forgive myself for months and months. I felt miserable, so guilty, right? Recognizing your own judgment is very important in identifying your in helping you identify areas where you're overly critical for yourself of yourself. And being overly critical, it kind of makes you unproductive because you just become miserable. You go into this deep place where it's not really helping you or anyone else, right? And these feelings might include shame or disappointment. And basically these feelings can totally squash self-acceptance, right? So I want you to create a branch that has leaves with all the negative thoughts you might have about yourself, right? For example, oh, I can never get through a conversation without getting angry with someone, right? That was mine, right? Or I'm a dreadful parent, or I can never get my career to take off, right? Or I can, I'm always told that I'm oversensitive and something must be wrong with me, right? These are, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, right? These are all things that we are telling ourselves constantly, right? So what are we going to do with this after we say that, oh, put all these voice in my head? I'm going to call it voice in my head or inner critic, okay? Um, in my head branch, okay? And if I was to, what are you going to do? Are you going to stare at these every day? And how are you going to keep that inner voice quiet? I mean, are we supposed to meditate and become saints? Because this is human nature, right? We are going to constantly question ourselves, right? Doubt ourselves. This is what human beings do, right? I think a different way would be to challenge this voice, right? Challenge it. Every time you have a thought, think about it. Is this a kind thought? Am I being good to myself? Is, does this thought make me feel good? No, it doesn't, right? Would I say this thing to somebody I really love, to a loved one or a friend? No. And if the answers are no, then you know that your inner critic is speaking again, right? I mean, you're just like going off like that, and you're probably just dismissing yourself more than, dismissing yourself where you shouldn't be, right? So, once you've made these self-proclaimed judgments or leaves, right, you need to make flowers to actually say the opposite thing, right? And the opposite. So when I'll share some examples with you, right? In those, I'm not asking you to escape responsibility because deep down inside, if you really need to fix something or get better at something, right? But the idea is to accept yourself just the way you are, where you stand at that moment. And then you can proceed to work on improvement, right? So, for example, if I had to say, the previous one where I said that, oh, I'm a terrible parent, right? So, the way you can put it in that flower is that you say, I'm doing everything with the best intention for my child, and I could learn to take better decisions for my child, right? Or, my career is not taking off. So, you can say that I can now begin to make efforts for my career to take off now that the worst of the pandemic is over, right? Or another one, for example, I'm sensitive and therefore I'm able to be empathetic, right? So these are just better ways to put the same thing and to find the good in what you're saying to yourself. But again, coming back to my example, okay, so I took stock of what was making me angry. And really, I should have brought that sketchbook here. I drew it out in my rough book, scratched, scribbled. I mean, it definitely didn't look like art. It was a lot of scratching and scribbling, and I was just like taking out my angst and wrote down everything and everyone who made me angry by what they said or what they did, right? And then I promised myself to extract myself from those situations before I lost my temper, instead of feeling bad later on, right? And rest assured, I've worked really hard on this, right? So now if I do lose my temper, it's generally for the right things and at the right time. So there you go. I've just silenced my inner critic, right? And this is what we need to do. We need to understand that, there's some truth to sometimes what we are saying to ourselves, but when you let it spin out of control, right, you start feeling terrible about yourself. And how do you stop? You stop by looking at why you're feeling that way. What is it that you can do to make that change, right? So, Kirti, you want to say
No,
something?
no, perfectly said. Yes, no,
Oh,
perfectly said. So are
yeah.
we supposed to put both of them on the same branch, the inner critic, or are we supposed to put the positive one on that branch?
Both. I would say put both, right? I mean, the idea is that you put your, the inner critics, the what the inner critic is saying, and then how you can put it differently, right? The same, the negative and the positive way of looking at the same thing, right? And when you put it positively, like if I was to say I'm too fat, I'm too thin, but if I was to say, I could be healthier, right? I will start working at it, right? Instead of dismissing my body and dismissing how I am, right? Definitely, I could be healthier and I want to be healthier, right? And that's when I actually start working at it so that I don't feel like this again. You have to take responsibility for how you feel, also, right? So, for why you're feeling that, right? So that is super important. Otherwise, we can all be escapists and keep feeling bad, also, right? So, so also the other thing is about changing your expectations of yourself, right? When you set unrealistic expectations of yourself for yourself, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, right? And this in turn is going to make it really hard for you to accept yourself. So, as an example, just I'm so boring and I don't go out at all. If I had changed that expectation set by my acquaintance and gone out only 2 days instead of 10 days, I wouldn't have felt so miserable. you know, it wouldn't have been so hard, right? So be true to yourself and your own values and who you are. I mean, if I am asocial and prefer curling up to read a book, so be it, right? Yes, I did make an effort to go out and meet people, and that's fine. That's great. That's an effort that I'm making. But to say that, oh, I'm going to do something totally, which is like the opposite of what I am, is not is going to make you feel bad about doing it also, right? So, so there. Yes, would anyone like to share what they're making? It would be so nice to see, you know. I would love to see if any of you are making um anyone.
Mansrish, I'm just going to spotlight 1 second. Wow,
Oh, that's so
beautiful,
nice. That is so
beautiful.
nice. It's gorgeous, actually. Wow. And what colors are you using? Oil crayons or dry pastels? Soft pastels. Very nice. Really nice. You must write, you know. You are writing as well. Ah, yes, but more detail. That would be so nice. And you're writing compassion and persistence, and that's really, really nice. Wonderful. Anyone else who would like to share? This is so nice just to see somebody else's work. It's fantastic. Is there anyone else who would like to?
Shweta, I'm going to spotlight you. Go ahead.
Hi, Shweta.
Shweta, we can't hear you. You can
We can't
share
hear
with
you
us.
or see the drawing. Oh, that's nice. Shweta, can you hold it up? Very
Fantastic.
nice. Shweta, I love the fact that you've written so much. That means you're really thinking
Fantastic.
about stuff.
Beautiful.
It's just wonderful. Wow. So nice. Thank you for sharing. Is there anything on that you'd like to share, Shweta?
We will open it up. Let me just unmute her 1 second.
Um, this is
Go.
my first session basically, and I was given the link by my senior in the office. And actually, after even when I'll be going back to home, I'm in office right now. I'll be again drawing this because the things which will be coming up after when I'll be sitting in my me time. So that will be something apart from these topics. Also, I'll be having things. Then I'll again make this with different more branches.
Yes, that's so nice. Yes, this is the kind of exercise, you can continue over some days also, right? I mean, I don't expect that everybody will finish doing it right now or actually just like everything will come pouring out like right now. But it's wonderful that you've started, Shweta. And I'm so thrilled that you're going to continue with this exercise. So happy to know that.
Yes, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Absolute pleasure. So, Charu says it's her homework as well. That's
And
fantastic.
Kavita is asking, yes, this will be available on our Facebook and our YouTube channel. On Facebook on Sipping Thoughts, you will be able to find the entire video there.
Full. Great. So, which brings me to my last branch. Okay. Last branch, which is your affirmation branch. Okay. And affirmation branch is basically, it's, the trick to not feel insecure and to not feel and to embrace yourself is to not allow your approval of yourself, one, to be the decision of other people, right? You have to claim that role. And for that, you have to practice daily affirmations, right? An affirmation is a positive statement that you make, to do something, to change something in your life, right? And using this method, actually, drawing this and putting it down here is also an affirmation. All of this is an affirmation. You're using this, it's a tool to, build self-compassion, right? Because you are deserving of the same kindness that you would offer somebody else, right? Having compassion for yourself makes it easier to not be judgmental of yourself. And also, you can also, you also become more compassionate of others also, actually, right? So self-compassion, I think, according to me, would develop emotional resilience. And actually, a compassion can actually change for others, can actually change the world, right? So daily affirmations, right? So for example, an affirmation would be for somebody who, thinks that gets scared with like things that I don't know what might happen later on, kind of thing, right? Just as an example, you could write, I'm able to get through tough times. I am stronger than I think, right? Or let's say, I am not perfect and make mistakes, but that is okay, right? Somebody who really criticizes themselves for everything that small things that, goes wrong, right? I am a kind and thoughtful wife. That's a great thing to write. It's a great affirmation, right? So these are affirmations. So I want you to make an affirmation branch, and I will quickly make it here. It's made here, but I will write here affirmations, right? Affirmations are really powerful, and this entire tree is an affirmation, actually, right? Can you see it now? Okay.
So Charu is
I'm going
asking
to,
a very interesting
yes,
question. If I draw a tree for 10 days, when I feel my contents will change very frequently, it's like being confused about life.
possibly, Charu. I think the content that you put there, it's, the content, that means you're not settling on one thing. I mean, I would think that these are things that, your accomplishments are things that they cannot change really. You might add more accomplishments as an example, right? But what you've already done is always going to be there, right? Let's put it that way. That's not being confused. That's just like maybe you feel that now this is over and you're adding something else, right? You just have to add more accomplishments. Judgments are going to get added. There's no doubt about that. So your inner voice, if there is an inner voice, that is saying one thing one day, another thing another day, maybe those are all the things that you need to add and you need to fix, right? For some of us, there's only one thing that's troubling us all the time, right? For some others, it could be 10 things that we're insecure about. And this is the way with different people, right? Everybody is not the same, right? And of course, your affirmations also, the things that you want to achieve, the things that you want to be, right? Those are going to be your affirmations. So that is where you have to try and figure how many things you want to do at the same time, right? I would suggest to start with a few of them, right? Not like 10 different things. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. Does that answer my question? Maybe?
Yeah, Charu says yes, but I want to ask you a question because a lot of times when we hear about affirmations, people give us these generic affirmations that they say, okay, whatever, I radiate well. I've seen a lot of them, but you're saying make these very personalized to you. So
Yes.
please tell us more about this.
So affirmations, for example, let's put it this way. I'm just thinking. Okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, when the pandemic was on, okay, I don't enjoy cooking. Okay, I mean I learned to cook when I was a teenager, but I genuinely don't enjoy cooking. Okay, um, uh, if I have to, I will. But earlier I would be like ro ke karne types, right? But during the pandemic, I actually didn't I didn't have anyone to cook for me for many months, right? And then I decided, I was like, I cannot be constantly, relying on my parents, who live close by. And like, I can't keep relying on my mother for this all the time. I have to, what if I get COVID and I'm locked in? I want to do this on my own. And then every day every day I would tell myself, you can do it. You can cook a great meal today. And believe me, at the end of those 5 months, I was cooking on 4 gases together, right? And a good meal. Believe me, it was a good meal. And I'm my biggest critic when it comes to cooking, right? And today I can tell you proudly that I was able to do it. But that is every day I would wake up and tell myself, today you can do it, right? And without messing it up, because if I'm talking, I'll end up doing something else. So that's why I want to be alone in the kitchen and alone doing it. So I made sure that that's what I would do. People would think, my helper would come, who would come to clean the house, and I'd say, go out, but so that I can get this right, right? So, and she realized that I was serious about it, right? So, but yes, I mean, it works. This is just one example, right? Look at just your daily life, right? I was a terrible time manager, but now I'm taking a time management class and I'm very good at managing my time. So that every day I've told myself, I can do this. There's so much on my plate every day, but I'm able to do it. So it's just about being able to deciding that I want to do this and I can do it. Every day you can tell yourself, who's stopping you? Only you. Only we are stopping ourselves.
So Sweena says that I did with my physical strength and winning over negativity in family.
There you go. And physical strength is no more. I mean, that's like, just regaining strength is a big deal. I can do it. People who are, disabled and who are unable to walk sometimes get up and walk because every day they are telling themselves, I can do it, right?
I love this affirmation. I can do it. It's so simple, and yet, it's so nice. It's very powerful.
And it's different for different people in different areas of their life, right? So, and which brings me to one of the nicest bits of what I really, really love is, my emotional support system. And I want you to, a dynamic ex-colleague, okay, she's running a company and everything. She recommended, right, when I restarted work a few years ago, that I build a really good support system to help me manage my work and my son. But I would say, yes, of course, all that is wonderful. But I'd say that it's even more important to surround yourself with loving people, right? Far more important than just having people who will manage your day or etc. Right? If you spend time with people who negate your self-worth, you may have a really hard time accepting yourself. People who dismiss what you do, people who, if you're constantly surrounding yourself with those people, then it will be difficult, right? People who are constantly critical of you, or who you have to convince about stuff all the time. And yes, some people may be living with people like that, right? But you can, what then, if you're living with people like that, what you can do is find friends who you can talk to every day. Friends who are supportive of you, who love you, right? Siblings who are supportive of you and who love you, because these are the people who will give you the boost that you need to accept yourself for who you are, right? And on that tree, I want you to make a branch, on any of the branches, I would say across the tree, right? Make flowers for people who have supported you all these years, different people who've supported you. And I'll tell you, I'll start with my mom. Okay. I'll start with my mom on one. I'll start with my dad on another one, right? So I'm just saying that these are people who supported you all through, right? Emotional support. That's what I'm talking about, right? Who are there for you at any given point of time, right? And for those who say, oh, only my mother supports me. You're really lucky if your mom supports you, really, right? I know lots of people who would say that their moms haven't supported them, right? So and when you discover that you have a lot of people in your life who are emotional supports for you, it'll just make you happier, right? And you know who to go to when the going gets tough, right? So yes, so please put that down. It's just one of those things that just makes me smile, you know. So I have an endless list actually. I've just put down two. I think my tree will be covered in flowers more than the judgments and the voices in my head. I'm serious. When you really think about it, right? It's very easy for us to say there's nobody who will support me, or there's nobody. but we forget people who were there for us at different points of time. That's what. See, I want you to remember them, even if it was 10 years ago, right? Put that down, right? And that's good. I remember my time in Bombay when, my aunt's sister, she really supported me, right? I mean, there was just this, small things. I mean, I knew I could just pick up the phone and call her, right? So that's what you need to do, right? So even remember her, like I'm remembering her, like right now when I'm thinking about this, right? So not just in the moment, not just now, okay? So for the reality is that, and we are having a chat on a women's platform, and the reality is that we do live in a patriarchal society with armchair conversations about equality for gender and all others. And in general, social acceptance for women is an issue worldwide. It's not just here. TV soaps are made around it, and most people want everyone, women in particular, to fall into the norm, right? For them to feel comfortable. It's for their comfort. Okay. So I also see that there are some men here in the audience, and thank you for your presence, because hopefully men like you are the ones who will support the women in your families. And that is really important, right? It's not just the women who are going to be like, I am like this powerful woman, but the men have to be supportive. That's when equality and non-judgment will happen, and so will the society will have a situation where there's acceptance and zero judgment about women, right? And I have a question for everyone. We've all judged somebody or the other for not falling into the accepted social norm. We all have done it, right? So let's each one of us here, right, make a promise, okay, today, to reach out to one other woman who you've judged in the past and support her through whatever her issues are, without judgment, without competing, right? So each one of us can make in your head, next to your tree, you can write it down. One woman who you will support, who you will, if you have judged her, because you do not know why she is the way she is, and maybe try and understand why she is the way she is, right? So on that note, I'd like to, I'm closing here, but I want you to start looking at beginning to love and accept yourself as something to be done on a daily basis. It's not something ki acha aaj session where I am going to think of this, but really, like, on a daily basis. And it's important to see every small victory, because it adds up to bigger ones, right? And I say this because it is really crucial to try and stay cheerful and really love yourself through the process of rebuilding anything that you've had, any setback that you've had, or any other speed breakers on the way, like COVID or anything else, right? Keep things in perspective and practice self-compassion. If you're cold-hearted towards yourself, it's going to be difficult. And remember, imperfection is something that we all share, right? All of us share imperfection. We didn't sign a contract when we were born saying that, oh, I'm going to be perfect, right? We didn't do that, right? So, this is about you. And when you re-look at what you've done today, right, in this exercise, and if you've done it honestly, I promise you, you're going to keep revisiting it every single day, right? You'll keep coming back to it and, looking at what you've
I
done.
would say frame it or put it somewhere so you remind yourself also,
So,
especially the affirmation part, because anyway, we are looking, so it's a very nice thing to keep.
so
So lots of awesome. I mean, I don't know if I know Shreen wanted to share. I'm just going to ask her to unmute. Anybody wants to share their trees? We would love to see them so that, we can. I'm going to spotlight. Wow, that is so beautiful. One second. Let me just spotlight it for everyone.
Oh, that's lovely. Oh, wow. Radhika, that's so cool.
Yeah. And then this one is amazing also.
Amazing,
Wow.
Bansri. That's looking so beautiful.
Look at Zainab's.
Looking so
Amazing.
Zainab, that's beautiful. Nice work. Really nice work.
That's
That's
wow.
really
They're
lovely.
beautiful. Beautiful.
Fantastic. Wow. I'm so happy to see these, really. And I hope you're writing, Zainab. That's really beautiful. I hope, yes, you have written a lot. That's wonderful. And that's a very beautiful tree, by the way. It is. Have you used watercolors, by the way? Yes, I think it's just lovely. So wonderful. So on that note, I would like to say thank you for listening in and for making your trees and for, just, being so participative and putting in your views, because that's what makes it exciting. So thank you.
And one before we close, Shreen wanted to share. Please do share. We would love to see that. Lots of thanks to you, Aparna. So, Shreen,
Pleasure.
go ahead. I'm just going to
It is
unmute
not my
you.
work. Thank you for giving this opportunity. But as I wrote, it is my daughter's work. But I just wanted to validate, yes, expression through art is the best medium we can use. So see, being a girl, she has.
Oh, wow. Very nice. That's so cool.
Yeah, because she's upset when people stare and they look at girls like. So this is her another creation.
Beautiful stuff. Oh my goodness.
Wow, here's another
Very
one. I'm going to,
beautiful.
Yeah, one
no,
you
lots.
can see here.
Is
These are cows sitting under a tree, but they are chained to the roots of the tree. So as animals are wandering here and there on road, she feels very upset. She's very sensitive to environment and pets. So she made that.
very nice.
Can
I'm
you give me
also
a second?
sharing.
Should I show it through screen?
I'm going to share
Yes.
Zainab's also. 1 second. I'll come back. Yeah. She is. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Which one?
Wow,
Sorry.
beautiful. The tree of life. Can you see it? I
Where
pinned
is
it.
this? No, you have.
Okay.
Can't see it.
Can you see it, Zainab? I've pinned it.
No.
No? Can you see it now?
You can
This
see
is the one.
Sween. You can see
Sweens.
Sween. Yes. There. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. Whose was that? That
This was Zainab's.
amazing.
It's yes, yeah.
That was really amazing.
Actually,
That
her
was
camera is
amazing.
off. Yeah.
Camera is off
Oh,
now.
oh,
We saw a glimpse. Zainab, that was amazing. That's very
this is
beautiful. Sween.
amazing. Wow,
Yes. Really wonderful.
that's awesome. Anybody has any questions? If anybody would like to ask something, would love to open it up for that. Otherwise, I think a lot of us have had a lot of fun. Like I said, and I'm inspired by seeing all these trees. So, I mean, I'll show mine, but I think I'm also going to go back and do it because it's a lot of fun to draw. Any closing remarks that you'd like to give before we end for today? Aparna.
Me? Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Any
I thought
closing
we
thoughts?
were waiting for other people to say something, and
I
that would be
am. I'm
nice.
still
I would love to
waiting.
hear any questions or anything. I mean, yes. I mean, I really enjoyed hosting this, and I loved seeing those trees. So I'm just, I think just be true to yourself. Really, eventually, and I've seen this that when you are true to yourself, you will automatically feel secure, right? I mean, if you understand yourself, I think that's what's most important. And we don't really give so much cred, so much value to being able to understand our feelings, where they are coming from, why they are coming, what situations and people make those feelings come up, right? And I think once we start understanding that is really, really helpful. So you could also just make a tree just about feelings, just as a thought, right? Where they're coming from, why, what's happening, right? What is it? Like I said about my anger, I did this entire scribble, right? So to understand what are the different situations, but because it was spilling into everything, right? And it didn't need to, right? So
Sanchita has a question. Sanchita, I'm asking you to unmute so you can ask it yourself. Go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, Aparna and Sikriti, for this wonderful session. So I understand these are all very mindful activities. And in this busy lives, it becomes very difficult to take out time and sit with a pen and paper and write. I'm personally very fond of doing art, but I rarely get time. So can you give some tips how we can spare some time and do all of these things?
Your time management tips, Aparna.
That's
We're
what
going to
I
have
was
to have
about to
a
say.
full session on time management. So I'm
Yes.
booking you for 2 now.
But I can tell you one thing, okay? So is that, so in your day, there's some pegs that you have, like, like a clothesline. You have 2 pegs and the clothesline is flexible enough. right? So similarly, you have to be able to have these pegs, things that are non-negotiables in your day, right? For me, my son's dinner time, bedtime is non-negotiable. I do everything around that, right? When he had online school, everything was around that. So I would start my work day at 2 p.m., right? So some things are non-negotiables, right? And then around those, right, you find out, for example, for me, I'm just giving you an example, right? In the evening, my energy, 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m., I'm not able to focus on my work. Okay, my energy is like I'm feeling all over the place, right? So what I do is I use that time to actually do the different things that I want to do, right? That 1.5 hours, sometimes I split it, sometimes I do different things. Sometimes when there are urgent things or things which I have to do, right, then I will do them in that time. But I try and do it in the really important work, I try and do it other times. Now, this is coming from somebody who works from home, right? So you might say it's easier for you, and somebody who goes to an office and works and has specific times, or working with a corporate, it's harder, right? But I think just being able to force yourself to make that 30 minutes that you need to yourself is a non-negotiable, and make that a non-negotiable in your life, in your day, right? That's not a flex time, right? This time that you need for your time, me time, make it a non-negotiable, right? Whether you meditate, whether you make this tree, whether you do art, right? Think about yourself, and you have to do that. I've seen, so my mother does it all the time. My mom-in-law does it all the time. That non-negotiables like these in their day, right? Which and really, I think that's what keeps them calm, given all the stuff that's going on, right? So that's what.
Thank you. Zainab says, I'm creating a 35 plus art form for the past 4 years. Believe me, art will pull your interest automatically. It's so therapeutic. Thank you, Zainab.
I would
Thank
love
you.
to add something.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Aparna ji, and thank you, Sukriti, for this wonderful session. What I truly believe, what I enjoyed in this session, few tips were very common, given by so many people, but they were really authentic, because, you know, scars make you more beautiful and authentic. As host of the day, she has suffered a lot, and she has created this life of art at her own. That's why it was reaching to our hearts so well. So nothing was fake, nothing was artificial, nothing was like a preaching. Everything was coming from your heart. That's why we could connect it so well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Another thing I would love to add, I could not continue with my art today, but I promise you I would love to complete it, and I will submit it somewhere. So I would like to know where I can get connected, because it is my home task which is still pending as a learner.
So Aparna is available on LinkedIn, and you can also always submit it to Sipping Thoughts. We will send it to her.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
one more thing, as somebody was asking, about how many trees we can draw. I think we can pick one branch and we can draw it like a tree. For judgments, it can be a tree. For self-declaration or self-acceptance, it can be a tree. For self-critic can be a tree. Even support system can be a tree.
There you go. You're fantastic.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Very, very nice.
So thanks
unfortunately,
for
always we run out of time. So I know it's always tough. So Aparna, any closing thoughts as we end for
That's
today?
it. No, that's it. Just do complete your trees. I think that's what I would love if you completed your trees for yourself, for your own sake. Do it for yourself and for your own sake. Yes.
And you can also send it to me at sukirti@sippingthoughts.com.
Yes, that
I will
would
make
be
sure that
fantastic.
and Aparna is on LinkedIn. You can connect with her there.
Yes. That would be great. I mean, if you sent it to Sukirti, because I'd love to see them, and just that would be wonderful. Thanks,
Awesome.
Zenu. All right.
Thank you,
Okay.
guys. Thank you. It was awesome to be with all of you. We're going to have some very nice specials next week. We're doing another workshop on Monday. It's for Women's Day special. It's called I Am Remarkable. It's a Google initiative. It's being done by Lean in India. So please do join us. And on Tuesday, we're going to talk all about health. So 2 really great specials coming up next week for Women's Day. And thank you, Aparna.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Just typing that in. Okay, bye.
Good night, everyone.